Oh. Oh. Just a minute. Hello, good evening. Sorry about that, I had lots of last minute restream login problems. I had to verify so many buses on one of those blooming things. Anyway, I think it's all happening. It's all happening now. Welcome. Just let me gather myself. Can I turn that off? Yes, I can. I'm clever at this these days, to some degree. Hello, evening, good evening. You're very welcome to be here this evening. This is Molten Music Technology. My name's Robin, and we're here to chat. We're here to have a beer, hopefully. Get that out of the way. We're here to enjoy a little bit of evening together, talking about stuff and music technology and synths and things. Thought I might have a bit of a fiddle on the W614, which I have here, which just, I think, on the screen looks like just like a mass of patch cables. But this is my first patch, and it's always interesting coming back to Modular, because I probably haven't played with my Modular just for a little bit because I've been busy doing other things. And when you get stuck into other synthesizers, proper hardware synthesizers, and you're writing about those, thinking about those, or playing with those, making music with those, and then you come back to something like this, and it's remarkably different. The difference in feel is huge, and how pleased I am to get a single sound out. Let me just check that everyone can hear me all right, because I'm always paranoid about that. You all right? Can you hear me? Could you hear the music earlier? Let me just rearrange my chat so I can see things a little bit better. Bring this over here a little bit. That's far too much wine today. Oh, sorry to hear that. Rat, cat, in the hat, number one. Thanks for stopping by. Have we got a load of people? Who knows? Yes, says Stuart. Great. I'll take that to mean everything. Right, that's great. Sound okay. Good. Bob the Builder. Pyrotech 45, yeah, I wish I had money too. It's an interesting thing. I think there's some interesting things we can talk about this evening, because there's, I don't know, I mean, there's been a flurry of releases this week from our friend Behringer, which have been interesting and intriguing and thought-provoking, and it's provoked a slightly odd reaction in me, and I don't know why that is, and I'm trying to sort of nail that down exactly. So maybe it's something to do with the nature of synthesizers, something to do with the nature of product, how we respond to that. You know, I'm for one reason or another, I'm quite a sensitive guy. I react to things emotionally. Not everybody does. Some people have a very straightforward view of life. I kind of crash through life mostly from place to place, being torn from one place to another, getting deeply invested in things and then think about things. I'm a bit of a thinker. I kind of put myself into things emotionally, and so that's reflected in everything I do, whether it's my writing, my music making, my video making. I'm a person who puts their heart into stuff. I find it difficult to just toe a line or to just do a job that's asked of me. I prefer to believe in the job. What am I talking about? Oh, I don't know. It's just some kind of prelude to the idea that I've been thinking a lot about synthesizers as instruments. I've been looking at different things this week. I've been very embedded in the Surface, which I've got over here. I'm going to point at. And the software platform. I've spent a lot of time making sounds with software synths and putting those together, combining them with effects, working in the digital realm, which is always interesting. I always enjoy that to some point. So I've had that on my mind, and then talking about synthesizers generally, so looking at that and hardware synthesizers. What's the difference between the two? Is there a difference between a hardware synthesizer and a software synthesizer? Does it matter? Should it matter? Are these things important? And the biggest emotion I've had about all this today is, why do I care? Why do I care about synthesizers, or how synthesizers are, or how a manufacturer behaves in the music technology environment, or how products are, or what they are, or how we feel about those? Why do I care about any of that? And that's the quandary. That's the thing that's got me stroking my chin today, because I'm not sure. I mean, wouldn't it be so much easier just to go, whatever, there's more gear in it, and not really give any thought to it? That would be simpler. But then that's not the role I necessarily find myself in. I mean, I think if you're, this is therapy for me, right? It might not be interesting for you, but for me, it's an opportunity to talk some things through and to potentially get some feedback from people who have different ways of looking at things, because in my role as I don't know what you call me, a writer, an opinion. My role as an opinion, I don't know. I review stuff. So in my role, I review things. I look at things with an eye to finding out what is good about this, what is bad about this. Now, there's been a lot of talk on the internet recently about the difference between demoing something and reviewing something. And I have plenty of friends who are YouTubers who I love dearly, who absolutely hate the idea of reviewing something and only ever demo stuff. At least in their view, everything they do is a demo. It's a demonstration or a tutorial, a work through. It's never a review, because a review requires you to express or point out potential flaws. And how can anything actually be flawed? Because everything is pretty much awesome, and that is also true. Everything is very awesome. And so it seems almost mean to have to try to find something that's wrong with something and point that out. I don't know. I don't think that's serving the position of privilege that someone like myself has. Right. I think it's important to suggest and critique products, because you have an opportunity to be in a position where you can handle this product before other people, or you can get to play on it before other people, potentially. And people are coming to you to see if that product is something that they're going to be interested in. And just showing its greatest side, while useful, absolutely useful and vital, is not the whole story. And I've always felt that I should share my response to a product, good and bad. This is the great stuff about it, because that's what I'm mostly interested in. I'm absolutely mostly interested in what's awesome about this thing. But then there's also things which either I don't understand, I don't get, things didn't come across very well, or didn't work as well as perhaps they could have done. And I feel that sharing those things also is a valuable thing to do. And I absolutely do feel the weight of difficulty with that, because you're dealing with people's babies, people's products that they've developed and put together and love and adore and are releasing out into the world. And how could somebody say something bad about it? Yeah, I know. But then I feel the role of the reviewer is not to say bad things about anything, just to point out where things perhaps don't work as well as they could, or maybe not at all, but to absolutely highlight the awesomeness while pointing out some things that perhaps are not so awesome. And that allows people to make a more informed decision. So that's where I come from. So I'm coming from a point of reviewing something. So I'm not just trying to blow sunshine up it. I'm not just trying to pick out, this is awesome, because we can say that all day. I want to show what something is what could do, possibly, potentially. But then I also want to show, why this is perhaps not perfect, or why I don't understand something, to give a normal human reaction to something. That's kind of where I'm coming from, I think. And so hopefully within that, I aim at least to give an honest reaction, an honest appraisal of whatever piece of gear is set in front of me, or I'm looking at, or I'm writing about. It doesn't matter what the company is. I've had a lot of accusations this week of being biased against, apparently, Behringer, which I can't work out, because I've got an entire 2500 sitting over there. It's finished. I just haven't actually plugged the power bits in, so I need to do that. So I won't be showing that today, in case you're going to ask. I've got an RD8 and MS101 over there, so I don't quite get that sense of bias. However, I am critical of things that they do when they do things that I think are worth criticising, and I don't love all their products. I love some of them. Some of them are awesome. Some of them not so much. And I think it's okay and normal to be able to have those sorts of different views about different products at different times. And also to change your mind, to be wrong about something and then feel differently about it later on. Or to be right about something and then feel differently about it later on. And mixed in with all of this at this particular time is the sense that, these are just synthesizers. We're just talking about synths. There are more important and immediate things going on in the world that are far more important than whether I feel a particular synthesizer is ugly or fabulous or weird or unintelligible or intuitive or gorgeous, etc., etc. So I think we have to keep these things into some kind of perspective. So there you go. That was a bit of a talk. Does that help at all? I don't know. I'll probably keep repeating myself. See how we go. So I think as you're having your own conversation in the chat, which is fine, as I've poured my heart out, I'm going to open a beer and we'll go from there. I think I've got Elvis Juice. Sponsored by... No, I'm not sponsored by anybody. Or Ghost Ship. I think I might start with the Elvis Juice, as that's all right, because I feel that... Well, first of all, I can open it without having to dig around for a bottle opener. And I think it's going to be more refreshing. Thanks, Andrew. I love you, mate. So... So yeah, well, let's talk about the Behringer synths to start with. Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure whether I would or not, but then why not? I mean, they're probably the hottest topic of the week. Anybody else who released something this week is going to find themselves a little bit pushed to the back as far as the news cycle's concerned. Get the new Squarp. Cool. Oh, I don't know. You see, I've been quite scathing of the Hermod. So I don't know. I might have burnt my bridges with Squarp already. But who knows? Yeah, no, I'd love to try that out if I can. So yeah, my thoughts on there's nine of them of these mini synths. It's interesting, I think. Now, there's lots of ways of looking at this. I think being able to play something like a Jupiter 8 for $100 is just super. It's just amazing. I think getting a JP8000 4000 for 50 quid, that's just stunning, absolutely stunning. That's nuts. So the shock when that first Pro VS arrived was like, what are they doing? What the heck is this? Wow, this is, good lord, look at it. It's just the weirdest funny. Wow. So what was kind of my general reaction to the Pro VS? I mean, it's got a horrible thumb thing on it, and then the Pro VS is not renowned for its interface anyway, and all of it was kind of squashed into this strange shaped thing with this stubby little keyboard sticking out the front. None of it particularly resonated with any of my aesthetic genes. I just thought, wow, that's a thing. Now, I didn't twig at that time that it was the start of something, that it was the front edge of an avalanche of similar looking things. But also the photograph that they released was pretty terrible, So all those things combined, I started off that week by going, oh my goodness, this isn't very good, and then instantly got into all sorts of trouble in lots of different places, which is quite, well, no, it wasn't. It's not funny. I don't like getting in trouble. I don't like getting people in trouble. I don't like the sense that I've been stupid or said something weird, So yeah, I don't wish to make brash, garish statements on Gear News or anywhere particularly. I try to be measured and weighted and such like. But hey, it was a funny device, and I thought, well, I'm just gonna say what I feel, because what else can you do, really? Particularly with anybody, with Behringer, for instance, when they release a tease or something that doesn't actually exist. It's just potentially existed. There's not a whole lot you can say about it. Waldorf was similar with their Iridium keyboard. They released a tease for that, and I wrote a paragraph on that saying what I thought, not saying what I thought the specs were. Not talking about the specs, because this is a potential product. I talked about what I thought it might be and whether that would be good or bad. Funny enough, I was right on the money. But there we go. What am I saying? So yeah, so this first one, I didn't really think too hard about the potential sound within it, because a Pro VS is not particularly my bag, man. But I just shared my immediate thoughts on it, and then behind that came the JP4000, which just looked better. It just had a better balance to the components, to the shape of the box. And I thought, yeah, okay, that's pretty neat, that is. I mean, we're looking at starter phones, we're looking at Volcas, all that sort of range. Yeah, why not? Particularly for virtual analog, it can fit in anything. You can stick a virtual analog synth on a little USB key and stick it in your computer. We've seen those before. So the JP4000 just looked much nicer than the Pro VS. But during the week, things have evolved. When the Saturn came out in the same format as a Pro VS, it looked a lot better. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe it's not as ugly as I thought. Maybe it was just that first one was a bit of a shock. And the idea of having a Jupiter 8, although it seems to be like a monophonic distributor rate, or 3 oscillators, and so you can separate those out kind of sort of almost paraphonically through the filter, etc., etc. That creates a slightly different vibe, I think, and is quite interesting. But then there's only so much analog you can fit into a small box, I suppose. So yeah, that one seemed more interesting. Then what came next? Anybody remember? But it wasn't until Hiroaki demonstrated his Hero Tribe. Not demonstrated it, showed it. That you suddenly sort of sat up and thought, okay, so there is definitely some thinking behind all of this. It may seem a little bit weird or strange, but they've definitely got the chops of engineering behind it. Although it's interesting that he was working on a very new product, something different, something which was an evolution of something he'd done before, rather than just a clone of something else, if that makes sense. So that's definitely interesting. That's kind of what Korg have done with the Volkers. Rather than just repeating something else, they've taken some ideas and rolled them into something else. And so that seemed to be what that is about. So yeah, definitely very interested in that. Can anyone else name the other ones that came out? I could look at them. Do we want to look at them? We could look at them. Why don't we look at them while we do this? Anyway, I'm going to take a sip of beer and just have a bit of a look back through the comments, because I feel I've just been talking at you as opposed to interacting with you very much. So Hedgehog says, Wagyu, great. Did Uli send the boys round? Yeah, maybe he did. The booklet, dual oscillator, Andrew. Yes, Andy. Yes, absolutely. Very interesting. And kind of a clone, a reissue of something previous. Interesting, isn't it? $49, $99 synths are great gifts and first synths for people. Yes, they are. Lots of countries in the world have far less wages than the West. Yes, they do. So what we should do is have a Band-Aid, right? Or something, synth drive for Africa. But then Behringer's doing that as well. He's given lots of synthesizers to charities and other places. That's all good. That's all cool. So, I mean, I don't want to jump to that straight away. I'll just keep looking through for the moment. Yeah. Could you see a classroom of third graders all playing their synths? No, not really. I'll tell you why in a minute. The gaming thumbstick gives away the tiny scale. Yeah, maybe. Waggo, it's interesting that you talk about the micro USB sockets, because other people have said how awesome it is to see the good old-fashioned MIDI port on there, but not the good old-fashioned USB port. So you want a modern USB port, but not a modern mini jack MIDI port. We all want what we want, I guess, don't we? Yeah, Native VS, you're right. They haven't actually released anything. They've just announced things. This is true. Whereas Waldorf has released something. Yes, absolutely. That's a whole other question. See, lots of questions that come up around this. There's all sorts of discussions we could have. We could leap onto any one of them, and all of them are interesting. I mean, the pricing one. I mean, a good example, right, is today's one, because I wasn't planning on writing an article today because it's Sunday, So anyway, that's not, Behringer doesn't have days off, as we know. They all work 24/7. One imagines. And so on a Sunday, they announced the Model D Soul. Got to get it right. I mean, I imagine they're going for, this is the soul of this synthesizer, and this is the spirit of this synthesizer. I get that, I guess. But the Model D. So I saw that and I wrote up about it, and it just started me thinking. I thought I could just write the specs as normal as I have done all week or I could write how this is making, other thoughts I have about this. And this one is particularly interesting because the other ones have been synths we haven't seen them do yet. Do you know what I mean? So they're new synths which apparently they may be doing bigger versions of, but they're evidently doing smaller little mini synths of all sorts of versions, and that's interesting. That's cool. So with the Model D, what was interesting about this is they already do a Model D. They have a Model D, which is a £300, £250 version of a £3,000 synthesizer. So they've already reduced the Mini Moog down to the Model D, and it's all right. It's, you know, it sounds great, works all right, a bit fiddly on the knobs maybe, but you know, there it is, and it's $300, and it's a steal. You know, it's a fantastic price for a little well-featured, good-sounding, classic monosynth. And so they then decided to take that, squash it down even further into this mini synth version for $99. So, you know, under, you know, a third of the price. Same sound, supposedly, but less controls and a smaller form factor. And that just kind of got me thinking as to how far does this go, and why is $99 for this better than $299? What is lost between the $299 and the $99? Something must be, you know. I mean, arguably, was there anything lost between the £3,000 keyboard and the Model D? Well, I suppose the keyboard, the wood, the size of components, the layout of the machine. So when you're going from a $300 one to a $99 one, you're having to lose a lot more, I think. And they have, you know, they've taken out a lot of the controls, and that just got me thinking about, you know, what is the point of hardware? What's the point of all this? You know, what is the attraction to something like this modular system? And it has to be this. It has to be my hands on this. It has to be the physical controls of it. You know, we've been through different styles and ways of doing hardware where hardware had no controls at all, because that was the only way to do it. You know, had there been fast computers at the end of the 80s, they would be, you know, things like the Korg M1 would be software synths, surely, wouldn't they? But instead, you know, digital was placed into hardware with very little control over that. Whereas what we see today is this sort of postmodern reappraisal of vintage stuff and modern stuff together with interfaces that we like and enjoy to use. So when the Mini Moog goes from a keyboard size instrument down to a smaller thing that you can just about cope with, then it goes down to a smaller thing, you start wondering, you know, how much of the hardware feel is being lost. And maybe there's a point at which this goes too far. What point is that? I don't know. I can't really say how much is lost. I suggested that perhaps if you go down to a $50 one, it could just have a cut-off knob on it. And would that be enough? You know? Because you'd still be getting that sound, and you'd be getting hardware control with the only knob you actually really move anyway. But again, is something lost in that? I don't know. This is the thing. This is the question that I'm asking. I mean, I guess, you know, in asking the question, I'm suggesting that something is lost. Yes, and I think I probably believe that. And this kind of clamouring for these mini synths, although I understand the idea that getting a synth for so little money is awesome, I don't know whether we're losing too much in wanting that and doing that. Doesn't make any sense. Like I say, why do I care? Why am I even trying to think about this? It's just a synthesizer. Buy it, you know, great. That's fantastic. But there's so many levels to it. When, you know, if you're a person who's invested themselves emotionally in machines, who enjoys making electronic music, who enjoys the interaction between yourself and a synthesizer with patch cables, with hardware synths, software synths, you know, if you enjoy how that relationship works, then things which have fewer and fewer controls are not really entering into the spirit of that. and I think you tend to care. There's also this element that if we have every synth that we could ever dream of, does that get us anywhere? I mean, if you're a hobbyist, right? If you're into model trains, say, and someone just gives you all the trains, does that make your hobby better? Maybe, or does it make it worse? You know, how does all those trains compare to that train that you saved for, that you've crafted together, that you've gradually added carriages to over time, that you've built the track, you know, and you've spent time carving that tunnel over there and setting all the bits and painting the little guys. You know, if somebody comes in and just dumps all that stuff ready made right in front of you, does that enhance your hobby, or does it ruin it? So having these are just, you know, I'm just having thoughts, you know, I'm just trying to speak these thoughts out loud because I want to find out what it is that's been driving me nuts this week. I'm just trying to dig into it a little bit, and I'm not saying that these are all these things that I believe and therefore bad anybody. It's just got me thinking, and I'm chewing on these things, and I'm trying to work out for my own sanity, what this means. I mean, somebody mentioned about kids. I mean, this is something that I've talked about a lot myself in defence of people like Behringer, because what I like is the idea that a kid can save up his pocket money, you know, a teenager, whatever, can walk into a music shop, and, you know, in the old days you could walk out with a slightly crappy electric guitar, you know, and that'd be great, and you'd thoroughly enjoy yourself. You'd never ever change the strings, you wouldn't know how to do that, but you'd be thrashing on this guitar forever, and that would be fantastic, and you would have a lovely time doing it. And you can do that now with a synthesizer. You can buy a Behringer, you know, buy a TD3 already on MS1 and have a lovely time, and you can do that already. And I think that's awesome. I think it's fantastic that the barriers to someone buying a synth are now so low. I mean, for those people who know me a bit better, hopefully you understand that I'm very keen to lower the barriers of entry to people. That's something that, you know, I have a chip on my shoulder about. I don't want in any way to be a gatekeeper. I don't like gatekeeping. I like people to be able to access things whatever they want. And so part of my mission in when I use synthesizers or modular is to try to explain stuff, is to unpack stuff, open stuff up so that more and more people can have the opportunity to come on board and try it for themselves. And price is definitely a barrier, and so having lower prices is going to be a good thing on the whole. So I'm not automatically anti the price at all. You know, I understand people's feelings of elitism and feelings of God, these guys are all their synths and how much money have they all got, blah 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 blah. You know, and certainly I'm sitting here next to a £2,000 modular system. You know, how lucky am I, eh? Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't got it for free. I haven't got it for free at all. I'm writing about it for a magazine, and then I'm moving it on to somebody else. It's not mine to keep. I'm just writing about it. But I do understand that sense of why do all these other people have all these synths and I don't? That sense of not having the money for it. Yeah, so I understand those things is all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. But my concern, I think, in thinking about this is that I don't like the idea of a mini Moog being disposable. I don't like the idea that you could get these a rack of synths, a rack of Behringer synths hanging on hooks at a cash desk, where you come in for a packet of strings and some plectrums. You go, oh, well, I'll have that JP4000. Look, 50 quid, I'll have that. Or 40 quid in our country, probably. And then you walk home with what was once a fantastic, awesome synthesizer, whereas now it's kind of a casual purchase that you get when you pick up some anti-static cleaner. And there's something in that. There's something in what it something in what happens to us when we buy something, what happens to us when we invest in something, what happens to us when we save up for something, when we make decisions because something has value and you want to make the right decision. With all of these, you don't have to make a decision. You just buy them. Just buy them all. It's like somebody giving you a CD with every VST crack on it. It's not quite like that, but it's a bit like that. It's a bit like that where once that happens, actual VSTs and plugins lose their value and you no longer see them as valuable. And I wonder whether having access to all these fabulous synthesizers at these sorts of prices is going to devalue them to such an extent that they just become kind of landfill. They become fun and toys for a little while, but then they just end up being discarded. And why do I care? I don't know. That seems counter to what electronic music should be about, counter to what music should be about. I mean, one of the interesting things that Behringer says that Yuli said was that he wants everyone to have access to synthesizers. Yeah, which is great, and that seems very worthy. But then they seem to include the idea that Uli didn't have any synths when he was a kid, and so he had to build his own. And you go, right. So the not having the synth inspired Uli to learn electronics, to learn about synthesis, to build his own flipping synthesizer, and to then found a company which is now worth billions. So had he been given all the synths to start with, then maybe we never would have had Behringer at all. Is that some kind of straw man argument I've just set up? I don't know. That just says to me that there's something in the effort it takes to acquire the instruments and tools of our trade that's valuable. And in some ways that's lost in this. But I mean, of course it isn't, because we have choices and we can buy whatever we like. You don't have to buy these synths. You can save up for your Profit 5, real Profit 5. Of course you can. It's just some thoughts I've had. I mean, what would be really very useful would be to actually have these products in our hands so that we can go, is this any good? Yeah, it's really great. That would be fine. I'm quite happy to do that. Absolutely happy to do that. Somebody else said about kids again, just thinking about kids. Would kids in classrooms have these synths? See, I've been thinking about this a lot because I have some synths, right? Can I get my kids interested in them? Not really. Every now and again. I mean, I've even managed to get them on video once or twice playing with synths. At one time, I tried to do a weekly, hey, let's play with synths after school thing. And it was really hard to keep their enthusiasm for it. You can't force people to play with synths. You know what I mean? However, my middle son Arthur, he's been learning to play the piano, we've got him some lessons at school. I didn't want to force my kids into piano lessons when they were little because I hated that when I was a kid. Although I absolutely acknowledge the benefit that has given me over the years, but I didn't like the idea of lost my train of thought. Didn't like the idea of making them do something that they would hate me for or hate that for later, as many people do. So I've always allowed musical instruments to be available to them and hoping that someday they'd be interested. My oldest son plays a little bit of guitar. I don't think he's ever really fallen in love with it. But my middle son has really taken to the piano and it's been fascinating. But it's the piano. It's not synthesizers, it's not keyboards he's into the piano and learning that and learning his two hands and learning to read music, and that's fascinating. And so he would very much like his own keyboard to have up in his room rather than having to use the electric piano downstairs. Like a keyboard, but he doesn't want a synthesizer. I mean, I could set him up instantly with a huge MIDI controller. I've got them in boxes over there. MIDI controller, computer, software, And he's just like, I don't want it. I don't want that. I don't want to have to start something up and load something. I just want to be able to turn it on and play it. And it's like, right, turn it on and play it. Well, no, a synth. Yeah, but I want to play 2 notes. Well, okay, a polysynth. Oh, yeah, but I want to, has it got to have a piano sound? So ultimately, what he's interested in is something much simpler than a synthesizer. And he just wants to play. And I imagine kids in school, when they're learning in music class, they just want to play. They're not really interested in synthesis. I think they'd be more interested in some kind of automatic home keyboard that has some drums that plays by itself. It has an intro and an outro and a fill in the middle and some boom, 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 off it goes, and you play the piano and that kind of thing. I imagine that's what Arthur wants. That's probably what I'm trying to find Arthur at the minute. I have no idea what to get him. But I think, and I remember at school when I was a kid, we had little Casio keyboards, and that was brilliant, because all you're really doing at school, you're not learning synthesis, you're just learning a scale, and you're learning what notes are. There's no space in the curriculum for learning synthesis. It's not there. I don't think it's even there at A level later on. You have to get into music technology perhaps at degree level before you even talk about the nature of sound synthesis. So I don't know. It's like there's like, I mean, I don't mean to be remotely cynical about Behringer's charitable giving. I think that's brilliant. I think it's awesome that they did that. I wonder how much use those MS-101s are going to get from those kids, and how, because it's a monophonic synthesizer. You know, what can you do with that? Not a whole lot. You can do masses with it in the context of a studio, in the context of larger things. But having a class of 30 kids with 30 MS-101s, that's interesting. You know, they'd all probably be better off with Yamaha PSRs, you know. So kids' educations having these things, are they really? They don't have built-in speakers, do they? So again, kids are going to have headphones, or they're going to have to plug them into something. That makes added complication when you've got a little Casio keyboard, built-in speaker on your desk, plink, plink, plink. You know, you're all away. You're all away. Yeah, so anyway, so that's a lot of stuff. So let me have another swig of beer, and maybe we'll move on to something else. Unless anyone has any questions, of course, I'll have a quick look through the comments in a minute. Because again, why do I care? Because if I want all the sounds of all the synths, I've got it in software. So it's not that I'm after. And yeah, the software synth sound, why, I know some of you will have different thoughts, but you and I have the same nose. Is that what you said? What did you say? I don't know, it's all just moving up now. Yeah, we do have the same nose. Well, that's lovely to think that. Poor you, is all I could say. What was I saying? Yeah, software, hardware. You know, the sound is good enough in software. It's always good enough. No problem. So I've got all the synths already. You know, a combination of IK Syntronic or Native Instruments or Arturia or whatever the other ones are. You know, I've got every synth already. So it's not that. It's not having every synth. It's not having the sound of every synth. So it has to be the synth as an instrument, and that's where me and Behringer just start to rub up against each other, I think. Because if you look at something like the Proton and the Neutron, it's a great instrument. It's a great synthesizer. It's a great price for a great bunch of synthesis stuff. It's just not a beautiful instrument. You know, the Poly D that they did, beautiful instrument. The Mono Poly, beautiful. The Deep Mine even, beautiful, well laid out. Something like the Neutron, it's a bit more cramped in there. It's not as beautiful as, say, a Mother 32. It just isn't, to my eyes. So when you bring along the Proton, excuse me, which again has this, oh dear, this massive patch bay over on one side. Similar with the Model 15 they've done as well, big patch bay over on the side. It's just not as aesthetically beautiful as an instrument. So that's an element. And then when you squeeze it into this mini size thing, you're losing so much of what's important about hardware. Why is hardware still a thing? It's a thing because of the way we can interact with it. And as you minimize that to such an extent, then I think that's a shame. You know, I feel the same about the Roland boutiques, really. They're often too small and fiddly to really make them worthwhile. I certainly like the SEO2, the Studio Electronics ones, which is a shame. It sounds great, but those tiny knobs are really unfortunate. Anyway, so I mean, I had a Monotribe, Korg Monotribe, which I didn't like because it was just too small. I couldn't get on with it at all. Yeah, I mean, I have a few Volcas that Korg sent me, and I enjoyed the new bass very much because of its particular sound. But the other ones I haven't really got on with because they're so flipping small. If I sit down in an evening, I'd much rather play with this than I would a Volca. I mean, of course, massive price difference between the two. Aren't I lucky? So if a Volca was the only thing you could have, then absolutely you would love it to death. See, so many angles. And I could see people absolutely picking up those Behringer synths and having a great time. Totally. I absolutely can see that. I can see that. So maybe I just need to chill out about the whole thing and just let it roll, man. Just let it roll. Because ultimately, who is it harming? Is it harming other boutique makers of synthesizers? Not really. I don't think so. I don't think someone who's going to buy the Saturn, for instance, is suddenly not going to buy a Jupiter X. You know, they're thinking, I know, I'm going to buy the Polybrute from Arturia. No, I'm not. I'm going to buy the JP4000. I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't think they're stealing any customers from anyone. I don't think they're doing anything wrong or anything bad. You know, I only get annoyed with Behringer when they do things like the swing. I mean, that's just sort of stupidity. So those things, different. They're not doing anything wrong with these mini synths at all. You know, all power to them. They've developed this technology. They've worked at it and recreated it, and made a great sound with these synthesizers. So they should be able to put it in whatever format they like. Absolutely, do that. Yeah, I mean the SEM. That's right. The two voice. That was probably the most interesting, I think, of the week, and I'd forgotten all about it. Because the SEM is such a great module. It somehow stands above everything else. I mean, I've just so enjoyed playing with the 8 voice, the G-Force one. Just brilliant. There's something in that sound. There's something like the Nymphess, has that kind of feel to it. And so them doing a version of that, I think is really interesting. I'm surprised they haven't done individual SEMs as individual URAT modules, but maybe that will come. I don't know. So, I am definitely upbeat about some of the stuff. I think that's an awesome thing for them to do, even though I know that Tom Oberheim has his own special edition thing out. But again, I don't think anyone thinking of buying an Oberheim 2 voice will suddenly decide to put £2,000 into their holiday fund and just buy the Behringer instead. No, I think there's room for all of these things, and all of these things absolutely could exist. I have no problem with Behringer cloning old vintage gear, other synthesizers, dead synthesizers, even more recent synthesizers. It's a thing, and we end up balancing out this concept of you to some degree that you get what you pay for. And that's evident in the size of interface and the interaction you can have with that compared to a much larger machine. It's interesting that that's less of a distinction when you get to their more expensive stuff. So when you get to their Poly D or their Mono Poly, that's or their ARP 2600, the pricing on that is very, very keen compared to, if you compare it to the Korg one, you're not really losing much. There's not a whole lot of difference between the two. So that's actually a more interesting, more edgy area than the super cheap area, I think. I mean, who are they competing with at that level? Pocket operators? Volkers again, I suppose. But with the Model D Soul, they're kind of cannibalizing their own sales, I think, on that one. I mean, I wonder if the Polychain thing is a thing. I mean, could you just have a well there, but then you've got to change them individually, haven't you? Or have you? No, not with Polychain, do you? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, I keep talking and then saying I'll have a look in the comments and then I don't. Anyway, so where do we got? There's a lot of new messages apparently. That doesn't sound bad at all. Cool. That's a good comment. Thank you for that. Eric says for him, saving for a particularly expensive synth or module adds to the occasion of when you receive it. Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Rumble Thump says that I'm right. Okay, good. I'll print that one out. Hi, Mr. Wath. There's a difference between making music and wanting more stuff. Yes, there is. But we do find ourselves in that quandary, Because, yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that, and another of the reasons why I've been thinking about this week is just the commentary from Behringer fans. People I like people to get enthusiastic about stuff. That's great. But there's some kind of this idolization that's going on with Behringer to some degree, in that he's saving us all from something and rewarding us all with synths. So we deserve to have all these synths. Do we? Do we really? And is having all the synths going to... Yeah, I mean, I said something about... Yeah, when we all got free plugins and that, did that revolutionize the music business? Did we all churn out hundreds of more sound engineers? And did it change music? I don't know that it did. The TD3 that's been out now, did that change music? I don't know. I mean, more people were making their own acid, which is great. So, okay, so then we come back to it being a hobby, in which case we're collecting boxes of sound, I suppose. Yeah, maybe that's it. There wasn't an acid revolution, even though more people now have a TD3 than ever had a Roland 303. There's far more of those in circulation than there ever was of the Roland machine. And yet are we hearing lots and lots of acid bass lines or other music being made differently with those machines? No. So who is it who's buying all these synthesizers? Is it people who are genuinely making music and are so then released into making music? There's almost this idea in the Behringer echo chamber, that you're enabling us to make money, to make music. You're democratizing the making of music so that we can all do it. Yes, really? Because creative people have always made music. There's no barriers to anyone making music. You can make music, with tin cans and bottles, and you can make your own skiffle band, with a piece of piano wire and a broomstick. There's nothing stopping anyone from making music. This idea that, I can only make music if I have a Jupiter 8, or I can only make music if I have a Mini Moog. If I get the Mini Moog, then I will break through. That's kind of crazy talk. So that element of Behringer synths are going to save us and are going to allow us all to make awesome music. No, I mean, yes, maybe, but only in the sense that as a hobbyist making music for yourself, it gives you a wider palette of sounds and access to sounds that you you historically love or you're interested in, and all of that is great. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong or weird about that at all. Get stuck in, collect all the synths. That's fine. Yeah. So I mean, that's definitely. I think that's essentially where the market is. The market is there for people who are interested in making their own music, having their own sounds, and want that range of historic sounds that they believe sound in a particular way that's exciting. Of course, if you're a synthesist, an enthusiastic person interested in synthesizers, then this is going to be absolutely for you. It's just not quite the same as all these synths are going to therefore produce or help me produce music or better music. Do you see what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm talking rubbish again. I think it's probably good to move on at some point. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go through all of these comments. You've been lovely. Look at how talkative you are today. That's lovely. Yeah, I mean, I agree that modular in schools would be a great idea, but it's not there. I'm married to a teacher. I know plenty of teachers. My kids are all in school. There is no room. There's no room for nice things. They get maths, you get English, and you get the sciences and the other things, and there is no room for doing fun stuff. There isn't any. It's just not there. That the Tory government has messed about with the curriculum so much, and the way that that teachers are monitored and reporting and what they have to achieve doesn't leave any room for nice, interesting, creative things. I've suggested numerous times, hey, I could turn up with a bit of modular and show the kids about modular synthesizers. That would be interesting. Yes, it would. But we can't give up a math lesson to do that. We can't give up an English lesson to do that. No, we can't do any of that. So it's a lovely idea that modular in education would be brilliant. I remember those videos that DivKid and Milo Melodies did at that festival that they were at, where kids were coming along and then really enjoying playing funny noises on the funny machines. That's brilliant. Absolutely excellent. But you're not going to get it into schools. It's not going to happen. Sadly. Yeah, they're more likely to eat the Korg little bits, I think. Okay, Bob Sanders, good thing here. Stradivarius made violins which now sell for 100k, and Yamaha make them for 50 quid. That cheap price doesn't devalue the original instruments. It doesn't devalue the art. What's different for Behringer? It's a good question. Oh, interesting. I don't know. I think the way that you would treat a £50 violin compared to a 100k one would be different. I think the sort of person who would play one would also be different. Their intention would be different. You could buy a 50 quid one to learn on. Are you liable to want to keep that one as your only instrument ever? Or would you get 3 of them? Or would you later graduate onto something more expensive? Does having cheap entry-level instruments devalue them? Devalue the sense of having an instrument? No, I mean, I think you're right. What is the difference? I don't know. Why do I feel this way? Why do I care? Questions I keep asking myself. I don't know. I don't think there's a fervour or a clamour for violins in the violin industry, though. I don't think kids sit around going, oh, wow, if they release a red one, that's it, I'm wetting my pants. I'm selling my car to buy one of these. This is awesome. That's not the same thing. We have this, synthesizers or music, this sort of thing is quite unique in the way that it crosses all sorts of ways of looking at things. It's quite crazy out there in some respects, the way these things are being talked about. I also wouldn't see playing the violin necessarily as a hobby. Maybe it is. But would you get 14 different sorts of violin? you know. Perhaps it would be better to talk about guitars, because there's certainly plenty of cheap guitars which gets you into playing guitar. But again, you wouldn't stay on that cheap guitar forever. You would want to move on to another guitar because it feels different and plays differently, you know. I don't know. It's a good question. That's, you know, and I don't have a sensible answer for you. I'm not trying to say that my argument at all is remotely coherent. No. It's absolutely open to being shot down in flames and has lots of holes in it. But I don't think it's a fair comparison exactly. But I see what you're saying, definitely. And yes. Yeah, you have classes with kids with recorders. Yeah, you do. That's right. Yeah, free spangly capes. I'll be with you on that. Definitely. PSR is only good for sending MIDI. But that's the thing, we get very snobbish about it, don't we? We see when people say, oh, well, you know, those people are snobbish about their sequential and Moog original synthesizers. Yeah, but we have our own sense of snobbiness about synthesizers and then home automatic keyboards. You know, we get snobby about that. We really shouldn't, because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I learnt my love of electronic music was born in a Technics SX K200, you know. Absolutely. I loved that. I mean, that rumba, God, I could play Spanish Eyes, right, on one finger up here, and I could play one finger chords down this end on the rumba beat, and I could hit that fill button perfectly. Amazing. Amazing. So, you know. No, says Peter Fox. Great. That's right, says somebody else. Good. Trust me, says Peter. Robin, if Modular didn't exist, what else would you focus on? Well, my focus before Modular existed was on software, on making music on the Surface Pro, which again I'm pointing at over there, and on the computer generally. I would be very much focused on that sort of thing. I think, although I mean, I do honestly think that the intersection of Modular with my working life, if it hadn't have been Modular, it would have been some other form of hardware. I was already spilling out of my computer into things like circuits, launch pads, Base Station 2. Well, I mean, that's a synth, isn't it? Yeah. So I was already pushing myself out of the box because I'd come to the end of what I felt the computer could really offer me in terms of creativity. What I liked about the Surface was that it introduced touch, you see, and it introduced the pen, and that gave me new ways of creating and thinking about music that I was making without having to use a mouse or a trackpad. And that was great. That gave me a few more years of creativity. Otherwise I would have exhausted it years before, you know. So it's interesting, but it's just that Modular just seemed to intersect with my desire to move outside the computer, and that was interesting. I mean, otherwise I'd be focusing on audio interfaces and MIDI interfaces, MIDI controllers, maybe other bits of sound gear. I probably would have gone heavier into video, maybe. I think just other interests. Is this a Synthrax case? I don't know. I don't think software synths are limited at all. Anyway. Cannot do live. Peter, you're on a bit of a mission, aren't you? And I don't agree with you, mate. I don't agree with you. I've played soft synths live an awful lot. You know, long before I got Modular and other stuff. You know, no problem. I was at a friend's gig where his sampler crashed. You know, hardware isn't the ultimate solution to everything. Or another gig where they just couldn't get it in tune. So taking a laptop and a little MIDI controller keyboard, fantastic. You know, it's a complete solution. So I don't really get what you're saying. So yeah, there's pros and cons for everything. Oh, see, MIDI controllers are crap. Yeah, sorry. Software synths are crap. Yeah, right. Sorry. Yeah, I don't really follow you, Peter. I'm sorry. So there we go. But you know, if that's your view, your scene, if it has to be analog, has to be heavy, has to take three people to put it on the stage for you, then that's cool. You know, you do that thing. And I love now performing with Modular, which takes all of that. I've got to drag the thing around, set it up, and none of it's in tune with itself. I've moved a patch cable. Oh my God, I don't know where I am. So, you know, it's awesome, knife edge stuff that if I just put down a laptop and play some loops in Ableton, I wouldn't have any of that trouble. But I enjoy that trouble. That's part of the risky nature of rock and roll, man. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. But, yeah, I don't agree with you that software is or MIDI controllers are rubbish. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. So, Wandering Turtle, you're really into the Proton then? Okay. I mean, I thought it looked all right. Anyway, just catching up on some comments. I'm nowhere near the bottom yet. So I'm probably really well behind the conversation is essentially what I'm trying to say. So I'm just scrolling through, having a look, picking up on things. That's kind of what I like to do, because you've taken the trouble to say something and I don't want to miss it particularly. Tanuki, you love your SEO too. Cool. Great. I didn't like it when I tried it out, but you know, I haven't spent a lot of time with it, so I don't have one or anything. So that's cool. That's cool. Oh, Robert's never going to buy anything, Behringer. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, they copy everything. Yeah, they do. They do copy a lot of stuff. But I wouldn't say they never innovate. I think they've had to innovate in order to get the pricing down. They've had to innovate in order to fit it into the size boxes that they want to do. They've had to innovate to get the MIDI implementation right. And they've had to innovate in order to capture the sounds they're trying to capture. So I don't think Behringer are particularly stupid. I think they're very clever in what they do, and they do what they do very well. They do copy, yes, and also many people do. I mean, you know, the example I tend to use is the lovely old Dieter Dofer. You know, all of his stuff is based on Moog designs to start with, and so it goes on. I don't think the copying or redoing of somebody else's synthesizer sound design is necessarily a problem. I think it becomes more of a problem if you're trying to trade off somebody else's gear. You know, that's something different. If you want to build like this here, this is a ladder filter here, the 3320, I think, which is obviously based on the Moog ladder filter. Now, is that copying and stealing and stuff? I don't think it is. I think it's somebody's version of a classic filter with a sound, but they've also, you know, put in 2 FM inputs, and you know, the layout is different. I've thought about it. So, you know, there are areas where it's okay. So then why is it okay for one and not for another? You know, again, interesting questions. I think that I have very little trouble with what Behringer attempts to clone or copy. Now, that because of my area of that, there's very little which is upsetting. Whereas I know in other areas, like in pedals, for instance, or in DI boxes or microphones and headphones, those sort of things, it's a lot more in your face. It's a lot more aggressive, you know. In the synthesizer place, we don't have a lot of sorry, getting distracted by something. We don't have anywhere near as much of that. You know, the swing is really the first direct one-for-one copy that we've really had in our side of it, and that's quite a shock. And it's not a shock to people who are more familiar with their other gear. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. Stop gatekeeping. Do the 5, do the 5. Don't know what that means, wandering turtle, but thanks for that. They do make a little expander box. Yes, yes, oh, that was really cool. Do. So it's interesting, Wagyu, that you're saying that they copied the micro USB from Arturia. So that was the thing. It wasn't the fact that they copied one for one somebody else's design for a keyboard and all of the features within it. Is that they also copied the micro USB port. That's hilarious. Thank you. Thank you for that. So, yeah. Most of the music we all aspire to is made on analog. Yeah? Really? Good Lord. I mean, there's decades of music that I'm into that doesn't have any analog in it at all. Wow. Sorry about your tiny hands, Joshua. That's a real shame. Andrew, yeah, the thing with polychaining, it does appear to me to be a bit of a faff. Although he did a polychain video on the Nymphus, the Dreadbox, and that actually seemed to work really well. But then you've got 2 6 voices you're combining into make 12 voices, which is pretty cool, and they're relatively simple boxes. Maybe it gets too much when you've got two bigger synths. So polychaining is kind of one of those things which, like, that sounds like a really good idea. Am I actually going to get 16 boxes? You know, it's like a double 8 voice, 16 boxes that I'm then going to have to, try to manipulate in order to give me that polyphony. I don't know, you might as well just buy yourself a polysynth. Yeah, there comes a point at which you've got to get the right tool for the job, do you know what I mean? Nice to see Wavefonix being featured finally. What do you mean finally? I did a whole load of stuff on their 314. Where have you been? Got their Poly 8 there, high pass filter there, low pass filter there. So I'm all over the Wavefonix thing. I'll have you know. So yeah. Yeah, Chris Wilcox. Yeah, he's great making stuff, and it's great. It's good. I think it's delightful. It's interesting how it's also still has a handmade quality to it, and I don't mean that in any bad way. I mean that it's not perfect. It has the same sort of quirk that you would find in a cabinet of Moog stuff, and that's interesting. This doesn't exactly kind of but also they are surprisingly affordable, which is great. This is a £2,000 system, as I say. I think 2,200, something like that. So it's not cheap, but for 2 rows of modular in a really nice walnut case, that's not bad. If you compare that to the Make Noise shared system, or the Ericsson's Techno system, then actually it's about £1,000 cheaper. So this is just awesome, really. But I mean, I'm just starting to. I've got one other thing. I've got the Cobalt 5S over there that I'm now allowed to talk about, and I've got to finish my review on that first. Then this, and I can get started on this and give it a really good going through. My question at the moment is, where do you get the clock from? But anyway, I'll get back to that in more detail at some other point. A Behringer Fairlight. God, that just sounds like too much effort. Thanks for the review of the Nifty case. You're very welcome. I like Create Audio. I've got a big soft spot for them. I think they're lovely. Am I sure the Behringer fans are not bots? No, I'm not sure of anything. Bolton Music Tech. Easel Cat, hi. Oh no, Peter's agreeing with me. Rats. So where am I catching up to? I'm up to now 20 minutes ago. Oh God. This is the weirdest conversation in the world. Yeah, okay, I'm going to skip down a little bit. Sorry if I'm missing people's really heartfelt things. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, if people want to talk about keep on mentioning the cork sniffer thing, yeah, that's fine. I think that was a watershed moment, and I think Behringer have moved on from it, and I'm happy to move on from it too. Personally, I think they just made a massive mistake, and I don't think you can hold a mistake over somebody forever. I don't think it was as intended as badly as some people believe it was, but people can believe whatever they like. It was certainly out of order and stupid of them. I think my view of that story, if you like, is that Uli became a person. He became a punter. He became a punter on the Gear Space Forum, and was enjoying the banter and talking to people and really being a normal person within a bunch of synth enthusiasts. And that kind of kidded him into believing that he was one of us, that he was just a normal bloke, when actually he's a CEO of a massive company who makes the gear that we like to use or not. So he kind of, if you like, forgot that power differential. He forgot who he was, and how, as the boss or something like that, you can't be in the gang and you can't do the same sort of banter. It just doesn't work. So he was just probably in his head somewhere, just being funny, him and his marketing team. They thought this was hilarious. They thought this will be a riot, and they lost sight of the fact that they are a massive multi-million-pound company, and he's a CEO of one, and he can't get away with being rude to people in that way, And I think he forgot. I think he got himself into a place where he felt he was just part of the gang, and that would have been okay. Do you know what I mean? So that's, I think, what went wrong there. And it's not been the same since. And that's right, it shouldn't be the same since. He should be something else, something different. He can't expect to run a company like Behringer and just be in with a bunch of mates on a forum. That can't really happen, I don't think. It's just not. The power level is too different. It's too different. So that's, I think, what that was all about. And so it led him to this ridiculous, crazy, stupid act. But as I say, I think we have to move on. Otherwise, there's no point in including it in anything. And that's crazy because they're there, whether we like it or not, whether we have forgiveness in our hearts or not. They are a presence and an influence and a part of our synthesizer culture, and I'm not going to therefore somehow exclude them or ignore them. That doesn't sit right with me, because I'm trying to help people make music, trying to help people explore synthesizers, help people explore modular software, music technology in general, help people get excited and enthusiastic about it. And I can't do that if I'm telling them they can't absolutely touch all of the gear that they can afford. If If you see what I mean. So one has to make one's peace with it. If it was a continuing thing that they were forever doing, then there's other things. But I don't think that's the case. And although their attitude has not been perfect by any means, the way they interact with the world has improved, and I think that's a good thing generally. Anyway, Tobias, you will never know. What Synthrax case? What is a Synthrax case? What are we looking at? Synthrax. Are you talking about this? This came with the Modular. It came as a whole unit. So I don't know who made the case, if that's what you're referring to. This isn't one. That isn't one. I don't have anything from Synthrax. Music is maths. Yeah. Oh, we're back to that. We're into that conversation. Awesome. Oh dear, this is so weird. What time is it? Oh my god, it's getting on. Talking about education, STEAM. That's interesting. Yeah, Russian synths. Can we purchase Russian stuff now? I don't know. It's a real thing. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been really quite deeply affected by what I've seen over in the Ukraine. It's just been awful, And the concept that non-military people are having to stay behind and fight is just horrible. And it's not as if they're going to go through 6 weeks of basic training and then 2 months of further training and then go on leave for a couple of weeks and then get parachuted in behind enemy lines. It's not like World War II. This is, here's a gun, mate, off you go. That's just terrifying. Absolutely, absolutely terrifying. And so, I mean, the flip side of that is all these sanctions, of course. And we all know builders of synthesizers in Russia. I've got a Russian sound object up there on my shelf. I have no clue as to what's going to happen with that. It must be awful. But what else can the West do? Now, there's a question, isn't it? But that seems to be something that they can do, which will hopefully put pressure. But it's of course at the expense of all the fabulous little synthesizer makers that we're aware of. That's hard, really, really hard for them, and it's a shame for us. But we can't live in isolation. We can't live in our own little synthesizer island and think that the rest of the world doesn't affect us, because it kind of does. I think Elon is highly into synths. Maybe. Oh, thanks. Mark says that Soma are still available from their European facility. Vlad has issued a statement. Great. That's really good to hear. Really good to hear. Thanks for that. You don't like Microsoft keyboards? You're a funny guy. The Surface keyboard was crap. Yeah, I mean, compared to what? I mean, I use a Surface Pro 6 every day. I use it for writing, work, and general bits and pieces. When I'm not on my desktop computer is what I use, and it's completely fine. So, is it awesome as a keyboard? No, because it's a very flat, thin thing. It's part of a Surface. Okay. You're not Mr. Happy today, are you? I'm sorry about that. We need to find something that you really like. Hopefully, because this is all analog here, right? I'll do a bit of a jam on this in a little bit. Is that still playing? Where did I turn it off? Oh, I turned it off here. Did I? Yes. There it goes. I'll explore that patch at the end, and maybe that will be a good thing for you. Doop doop doo. It's interesting how this conversation is going to go kind of round in circles. There's an update to the mini standard coming. God, we've had that for so many years. So many years. Apparently it's nearly here. Ah. Okay, where am I down to? Okay, I'm only 15 minutes away now. I'm going to skip a little bit, daring myself. It is fascinating though. You're really interesting to read. I mean, I can highly recommend if you're fed up with listening to me, just put me on mute. You know, if you're watching back to this, and just go through the chat because it's really interesting. I might do that later. Dee, 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 dee. Oh, cardboard music. It's nice to see Wavefonix on YouTube, not me in particular. Okay, cool, fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm never really annoyed at anything. Okay. Have I seen the new DF Audio Mini Bay? Yes, I have. I spoke to the geezer about it down in Australia, and he thanked me for making his life a misery. Because after I wrote it up for Gear News, he got a shed load of inquiries, and you know, had a look at where they came from, and then shot me an email saying thanks for that. You know, I'm going to be busy now for the next 2 years. Which is great because it looked great. You know, super idea. You know, how do we connect all these things together is a great question. I never have anything on my desktop long enough for it to need a permanent, you know, connection. That's why, I mean, I got the wonderful Matrix mixer from Erica Synths, but unless I actually set it up on purpose, everything changes too much that I can't really leave it plugged in. But I'm going to have to try to work that out. Because, I mean, you may have noticed my stupidly big stand behind me. Can you see that? Can't you see? Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to organise myself a little bit more because I realised I've now got too many synths sitting around that are just on their side, lent up against stuff because I don't have any desktop to put them on. You know, so I suddenly feel it's weird. I mean, buying this big stand seemed like a great idea. It's like, I need to get this stuff up off the floor. I've still got a couple of things on the floor, but I've got to get it to fit in the space. And what does that mean? And how can I do it so that it's going to work? I get access to them. Do I need then to have to plug them in? You know, and will I look like one of those people who has lots of synths? I mean, obviously it's a ridiculous thing to say because I've sat in front of all this modular stuff, which is ridiculous, you know. So why is it that I think I'd look even more stupid sat in front of a bunch of synths? Is that because somewhere subconsciously I have a problem with people who sit in front of all these huge synthesizers? Because in me, that needles me, because how is it that they have money to have a Prophet 5 and a Poly thing and a what's it? How do they have it, you know? I follow people on Facebook, lovely people, really lovely people, but they're forever getting new, huge, massive synths. Like every month there's another huge synth. Whatever synth comes up, they seem to get it. And it drives me nuts. And I imagine that there's levels to this in that people sit watching me with all my bits of modular going, how come he gets all these... You know, we all feel that. And that's why Behringer's going to fill that hole. We all have this hole inside us that's envious of the next layer up. And so Behringer is feeding that hole. That's what it is. You're going to get those, you're just going to stuff them in there. That's going to make me feel complete. Because then, haha, I'll have a Jupiter 8. And yeah, I'll have an Oberheim 2 voice. You know, I'll have at least 3 mini Moogs. At least. You see, haha. And I will no longer feel envious of those people sitting surrounded by huge synthesizers. That's the key. That's the key to it all. That's the key to it all. We've all got those synth-shaped holes. We have. It's the only thing that's going to make us complete. Yeah, Uli's comments on Gearspace, absolutely, they're completely sane. They're normal because he's just a bloke, and he's a bloke with, I imagine, um, a particular mind that is particularly interested in detail and getting things correct. So yeah, no, I'm not saying he said anything stupid. He never said anything stupid. He was very, very clear on that. It wasn't that. It was the fact that he felt part of the group. Anyway, why should a CEO be some esoteric, untouchable person? Simply because of the power dynamic. That's all. It's like a boss-employee relationship. You can be chummy, but there's actually a power differential, and that it means something. There's something there which doesn't work quite in the same way, because in a situation of bantering with each other, you have to be able to talk to each other in an honest way and criticize each other in an honest way. But ultimately, a CEO is trying to sell you something, and in that situation, Behringer is the maker of the tools that he wants you to buy. And that's not quite a real relationship, because it's not based on the right things. I don't think I have the headspace to really talk about that accurately at the moment. But it's not that they should be some untouchable person. And absolutely, you can talk to, I'm sure you can talk to Dave Smith or all these other people. Fine, absolutely fine. But it would be in a different environment, because Behringer was asking about what people want, what products people want, and talking about that sort of thing. I'm not explaining that right, but it is just different, right? Whether you like it or not. Anyway, somebody agreed with me. Is that a DX100 in the background? Where are you seeing a DX100? Because I used to have a DX100. What are you looking at? No? I'd know if I had one. I'm pretty sure I would. Oh, it's getting warm in here now. Oh, let's see. Movement 81. He's got a Synthrax case. There you man. He's your man. Yeah, let's not get stupid, please, in the chat. I'm not interested in discussing other war zones or what people should be doing to each other. That's just, I don't think that's appropriate, thanks. All the same. Ray, you've got a Surface Pro 3. Well done. Motorcycle tour to Super Booth this year. God, now wouldn't that be awesome? God damn, that'd be awesome. I did mention that one time, didn't I? God, that would be good. That would be so exciting. I keep weighing it up. I keep thinking about it, and well, actually, I need to do something about it. But I can't afford to not work the show. It's I have to write about the show, because it's a very lucrative time of the year. There's a lot of product, a lot of things to write about, and I get paid to write about them. And so I would be turning down an enormous amount of work and money ultimately if I was to take the time off to go on a motorcycle to Super Booth. Sad as it seems, I need the money. So my plan for this year, although I haven't done anything about it, is to go for the day on the Saturday is my plan. And so I can write about it Thursday, Friday, and then shimmy off on the Saturday, be there, go, whoo, shake a few hands, go, ooh, look, and feel shy and awkward, in places and eat some funny food and then go home again. That's the plan. Hopefully take a couple of kids with me as well, because they're fun and they protect me. They protect me from extroverts. Ah, dear. Oh no, catching up. Ah, the stand. That's why I noticed the synths. Oh yeah, right, okay. Did you know that when my high school project, my high school metalwork project for O level, I built a keyboard stand. That's how so I was into keyboards. The metalwork teacher had no idea what I was doing, but I used all of his supply of square tubular steel, square steel, hollow square tube steel. I don't know. I got a whole load of that and welded it together. Made some cross pieces that all fitted together. 3 it was, so a flat one, then one here, then one there, with bits out the front. It was brilliant, totally awesome. I then had planned, well, I got pipe insulation, you know, that sort of foam pipe insulation to put over all the bits for it to sit on, which was great, although I couldn't get all black by the time the thing finished. But it was brilliant, totally brilliant. And so, you know, I'm thinking about that a lot as I've got this huge, thick, I can't believe how thick it is. I was really surprised at the thickness of this bloody thing. I mean, it's interesting. Is it interesting? I don't know. It's Jasper something or other, 6 tiers on it. Can I give you a little bit of a better look while I'm here? I could give you the tour, could I? Because I'm standing sort of in front of it. Now, what's hilarious about this, you know, I talked about being jealous of people with synthesizers. So, can I do that? There we go. There we go. And it's just funny because it's always not. Is it funny? I don't know. That the stand that I bought cost more than any synthesizer I've ever purchased. So none of those synths on that rack cost as much as the bloody stand did. That's just crazy. Well, although they probably do. Yeah, no, they probably do. It's just that, fortunately, in my position as a reviewer of things, I haven't had to buy them myself. So the synths that I've bought on there are the RD8 and the MS101, because Behringer don't give out anything. They don't give anything to anybody. So I bought those myself. Very, very keen to get them as soon as they were available. I think they're fantastic. The rest were given to me for review that they haven't asked back for yet. And it's just quite funny about how small they are. I mean, this is one of the smaller stands you can get. And yet all these synths only take up like just over half the width. So they look pretty ridiculous. So what I need is a Poly Brute and a and an Udo 6 and a Prophet 10, etc., etc. That's what should be on there, but I don't have those sorts of things. I'm never likely ever to buy such a synthesizer. I just don't have that cash knocking around. Doing little bits of cash for modular, that works very differently. You know, a little bit here, a little bit there, build it up, along with stuff people give me for review. You know, that's a whole different ball game. Buying great big synths, great big chunks of money, no, I can't do it. But what I like about this is the potential for me to actually play on these synthesizers rather than just have them knocking around and getting them up to do a particular thing and then putting them away again. You know, this just access is what it's all about. That's why one of the reasons why modular works so well for me, because it's there and it's open, it's there, I can turn it on and start playing. That's, that is one of those things. So I'm quite pleased the fact that it fitted in there. That's just amazing. The table is now over there. Yeah, but none of that is wired in. Yeah, I've got to find the plugs for everything. You know, there's always more to do, but it's quite pleasing, as well as it makes me feel slightly odd. Anyway, SQ1 is awesome. Yeah, dentists and solicitors. What? Yeah, VCS3. That would be interesting, I think. Skulldrazer, you've got a big DIY 5U modular. See, I would. I have all of the panels and PCBs for Look Mum No Computer's Cosmo synth. I got a whole stack of them. Bought them 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. I can't remember. Didn't even quite finish the first VCO yet. I did a live stream of that with Sam, and that was enormously fun. But I so want to get onto that. I think it's really exciting. But I had promised myself to finish the Deckard's Dream before I get into the Cosmo thing, and I'm just not finding the time. Gonna really, really try. What do I think of the simulation of Bandcamp by Epic Games? Interesting. What is interesting, I think, is that Ben Jordan has been talking about this a lot on Twitter, which is quite funny, in how nobody's interested in blockchain and NFTs. It's all a disaster. Don't want any of that. No thank you. Don't want anything decentralized. We want things to stay as they are. And then Spotify goes nuts and we all pull out of Spotify, which is very much a centralized thing. And then Bandcamp gets bought out. Bandcamp was the one place where we could sell our own stuff in a good old-fashioned Web 1.0 kind of way. And now that potentially is about to be turned off. Or is it? So how do we feel about decentralization now, is the question. Because no one could turn your stuff off if it's on the blockchain. It would always be. I don't know what I'm talking about. So don't let's not go down that road, because that's just a road of craziness at the moment. Until somebody sorts all that out, I've kind of decided I can't really talk about it, because I don't understand the language, let alone anything else. So what do I think about Bandcamp? It doesn't feel right, only because Bandcamp has always given you the impression that it's an indie place. It's a place for indie artists, and it's homespun, homemade, DIY. It's a little place where you can stick your music and people can buy it and you get most of the money, direct kind of thing. One doesn't see Bandcamp as a huge multinational company, which of course it is. All these things are. They've just done a really good way of projecting themselves as a friendly, low-key, we've got your back kind of indie label. They're not. They're a massive streaming service. Of course they are. And so they're attractive to other big companies like Epic. So fair play to them. They've built a platform. It works. It's got a good vibe about it. Some other people have decided it's worth a whole load of money and have purchased it. I hope it just carries on as it is. That's what I'd like to see, because I think it's useful. I was planning to release everything going forward on Bandcamp ultimately, because it just seems like, because no one's going to discover my music. I'm not going to be found on Spotify. I'm not going to be discovered on any other streaming service. That's not going to happen. People are only ever going to go and listen to my music if I tell them where it is, if I link to it directly. And so I might as well do that on Bandcamp as anywhere else. That's kind of my feeling on it. And so if it wasn't there, that would be a shame. Epic Games, are they a bunch of cowboys, or are they a bunch of rock and rollers? Who knows? I mean, they kind of came from nowhere with the whole Fortnite thing, took on all the big leagues and have won out, Does that make them, are they going to be nice people behind all of that, or are they going to be a bunch of dicks? Who knows? Don't know at all. Have I got a motorbike? Yes, Edna, thanks for asking. I have a Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. It's nice. It's it's not a boy racer bike. It's not a super fast, super ninja machine. It's a good, steady, solid, goes along, sit on it, regular motorcycle. It's perfect. I don't love the colour of it. Perhaps that's the only thing that still narks me. I wasn't able to get actually the colour scheme that I wanted simply because they were just not available. But other than that, it's a highly enjoyable little runabout. Well, 650 is not that little, but it's a good fun machine. I like it a lot. It's good. Thank you. How well would it go all the way to Berlin? Well, it would do fine. Whether my ass would not is another matter. Or my back. I don't know. No. I hope the kids don't protect me from gas. That would be terrible. Oh, you got a Triumph Tiger. Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of nerdy things that go on. You know, motorcycles can be a bit nerdy to one degree. We just end up being these terrible stereotypes where, you know, we're into synths, we're into a particular sort of music, we're into motorcycles, you know. It's just the way of things. Microfreak, yeah, I even dug that out to stick that on there. What DAW do I use normally? I use Studio One because I write about Studio One for Sound on Sound magazine. I have to come up every month with another workshop on fun things to do in Studio One. It's a challenge, I can tell you. So that's the DAW I tend to use the most. I also use Bitwig a lot. I use Ableton occasionally. Yeah, the stands are quite sturdy. You've got to keep tightening the nuts up a bit. You can just put those alley scarf tubes in a chop saw. Okay. Logan's Run. Yeah, totally. One of my favourite all time. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think at least, I mean, my feeling on the stand about playing stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's a holder for synths more than a place where I would be going, oh, I'm going to play like this. You know, I've got one up here, one down here. Woo! That doesn't seem very likely. It's more of a better place to store them than the floor is, where they're going to get damaged and broken and messed up. So it's mostly that. I think it's unlikely that I'd wire them in to play, although I've been thinking about that. But actually, the thing on the bottom is as a box full of modular. So, you know, I'm not expecting to play the one on the bottom. I just felt that having stuff off the floor is a good idea. How do you afford everything? Well, I mean, I work for a living, Mr. R. That would be part of it. So, I mean, I don't mind being transparent about these things, particularly because I know that it's a difficult thing often. I know, as I was talking about earlier, I feel it when I see other people surrounded by their synthesizers, and I'm sure people feel that when they see me in front of Modular and other bits and pieces as well. How does one afford all these things? I mean, I've been fortunate enough to turn synthesizers into my living. So by my living, I mean I write about them, I review them, I make videos about them, I attract patrons about my work. And so all of those things contribute to Molten Music Technology, which then pays me a salary. Molten Music Technology, in order to exist, needs certain things, so it has to invest in its own infrastructure, and that sometimes means buying a new camera or some lights to enable me to continue doing what I'm doing, or a stand so that the synthesizers I've been given don't get broken. So, you know, I run a little company. Molten Music Technology is a company which also has to invest in what we do, and so that's part of it. So the way that runs is that it's not just me personally buying stuff necessarily, it's a company buying stuff, which means, you know, ultimately if I had to shut it down, I'd have to sell all the stuff and let it all go. All those sorts of things. You know, it just depends on how one is set up. But it is, so I have that dynamic going on. I'm also given lots and lots of things, not always permanently. In fact, I mean, generally speaking, the policy for Sound on Sound magazine, in case you're not aware, is that the stuff is on loan. It's not for keeps. So, for instance, I've got the Cobalt 5S over there. I don't think I'm allowed to keep it. It's just given to me for a couple of weeks so I can play on it and do my review on it, because Sound on Sound pay me to do the review. So I don't expect to keep the gear as payment. Does that make sense? For instance, I just reviewed the Sonicware Live and XFM, which is sitting over there, which is going to go back to them shortly. Does that make sense? On the other hand, something like the Hydrasynth Explorer, which is on the shelf over there, which has arrived recently, that came in from Arturia because they'd like me to make a video about it. And so, if you like, you could see the synthesizer as payment for me making a video, which they can use as marketing, which should hopefully result in more sales. So, when one says I'm getting a synthesizer for free, I'm not paying money for it, but I am paying for it in the 2 to 3 days it will take me to make that video, if you see what I mean. I know that other YouTubers would want money as well as the gear for free, you know, because the value that we can add, one can add, YouTube influencers can add to a product can be huge, you know, and manufacturers often expect that for free and probably shouldn't really. But for my part, I'm in the way that I walk this balance where if something is interesting, then I would like to make a video about it, and if I'm able to keep it, that's awesome. If not, then oh well, never mind. So I'm happy to take something on loan to do a video on it if it's interesting, because that's just what I'm doing. So it's not my video making that makes my money, if you like, it's the writing for Gear News and Sound on Sound and other websites. That's how I make my living. Does that make sense? So how do I afford everything? I don't. A lot of it is given to me. Other bits I just accidentally purchase from time to time. So for instance, this microcosm here I've got plugged in. What are they called? Hologram. Where's the box? Yeah, hologram. They sent it to me. They basically got in touch and said, we'd like to send you this. You know, try it out, see what you think, maybe put it in a video or two. And I said, okay. And so there it is. And then that creates an obligation, you see, for me to then make a video about it. And I've tried to feature it in a couple of things. I haven't had the time to sit down with it and to do a review of it. I'm not always able to do that. So if you're a manufacturer out there, I can't promise absolutely to do something on your product. I'll do my best. But, you know, unless you are actually paying me lots of money, I can't guarantee that that's going to happen. There you go. I've just lost a whole load of people now. But, so there we go. Does that help understand how I afford things? I hope that's helpful. Hi, David. Good to see you. How did they change the ending? How did they change the ending? Original synth. Logan's Run we're talking about. So yeah, I really like the guns in Logan's Run, how they kind of explode out in every direction. I thought that was pretty cool. It is a favourite movie of mine. Absolutely. Change the ending. What was the ending going to be? Did they not? Because, not to be a spoiler or anything, but they went back, didn't they? And they didn't find anything. There is no sanctuary. And then everything just blew up. And everyone came outside going, oh, look, an old geezer. And it's Poirot, they said. What's he doing here? Anyway. Do I have to keep all the module boxes somewhere for returns? Yes, I do. Well, I tend to. I've got shelves of boxes. It's really stupid. I don't know why I keep the boxes. I have to. There's a horrible space the other side of this camera, which is just box nightmare, and it needs to go. It really needs. I'd like to get rid of all of that, replace it with like a nice sofa and a table and a kettle. That would be ideal. Are we still... Thanks, Mr. R. Are you talking to me? I hope you are. do, do. Well, I mean, I still sell music through a website, you know, an HTML website where you can click on my address and send me a check and I will post you a CD. Or if you want to get a bit Web 2 about it, you can also pay by PayPal. So, I mean, there's an idea. We could all just have our own websites where you can buy a CD like the old days. Why don't we do that? No blockchain involved. If the next Flashbulb album release party is inside Fortnite. You know, that wouldn't surprise me in the least. Now, right, one of the things I want to do, because, you know, I have a long list of videos I want to make, and it's something that drives me crazy because I have a list of great ideas. And inevitably, they keep getting done by other people before I get a chance to do them. You know, the Surface is probably the one place where I've managed to keep hold of the bragging rights that I do that thing, you know. So, yeah, I've got a video I want to do on 1U. I want Neat must do it. One of the other ones I've got is, what was I talking about this? Oh, yeah, it was virtual reality because we got a Quest 2 for Christmas. For the family, and it's great. I love it. It's so enjoyable, so nauseating, but thoroughly good fun. And there's the modular synth thing in there. I want to do a thing on that. I've just got to get it done, man. Just got to get it done. I've got things to do. Good choice on the Enfield. Thank you. Are you still talking about truth and the nature of beings? 93 Honda VFR. Do you mean it's 93 cc's? Honda 90 was the first. No, was it a Honda 70? Oh, I can't remember. It was the first motorbike I ever had a go of, which is my dad's crazy bone rattling thing. See, a VFR in those days in '93, I had a Kawasaki Z650, which was just a fantastic bike that fell to bits. I then had a Zephyr. You kind of see where I'm going with this, the sort of bike that I liked. You know, and things like the VFR were around a lot. I was just not into the kind of plastic fairing speed bike type of thing, you know. I was very much more into an upright bike. So the Zephyr was absolutely my dream bike, and then that spilled its guts and fell apart. And then in a panic, because I was commuting at the time and needed a bike, I bought a Yamaha Phaser. And it lasted me like 20 years until I sold it. Had to get rid of it a couple of years ago because it just could not function anymore. Couldn't get it through another MOT. So I had to let that go. And I was quite sad for about 3 years and then was able to get the Enfield. So, yeah, there you go. There's my potted history of motorcycling. But the Phaser, although it was great, was a good standard, nothing wrong with it bike, just was not, it was not either exciting or stylish. It was kind of just, or it was all right. I mean, it would go quite fast and it was quite sporty, felt quite sporty, and it's, you know, it's driven me thousands of miles with my wife on the back and the tent and everything else. So, you know, it did its job and was perfectly fine and all those sorts of things. And there are times when I miss the grunt and the fairing, being on a non-fairing bike now. But yeah, it was, it just is what it is. You know, I can't go back and undo it. I was fortunate enough to have to get the bike, had to buy it. I never had the same sort of cash lying about since, you know what I mean? So I just stuck with it. There wasn't going to be any chance of trading it in. Had kids and that. So it's only now out the other end of kids that I was able to somehow convince the family that a motorcycle would be a good thing. You know, sometimes you win, you know, sometimes you do. You're winning at life. Sometimes. Oh dear. Crikey, people. You as an influencer persuaded me to buy this thing. I did no such thing. That's reverse psychology, that is. You can't get me with that, Ken. Don't you even start. I see what you're doing. Let's see the cobalt. It's over there. Cheers, Mr. Wath. I'll be shutting down in a minute anyway. Cosmos with a microcosm. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Makes sense. Good. Context. Love Logan's Run. Yes. Make a suffer from boxes. Yeah. I'm always at the bottom. Boxes, boxes. So, yeah, think up any last minute questions. Otherwise, I'll just have a little bit of a play with this. And then we can all go to bed. How much Iraq is what you bought versus sent without payment? It's a really hard question, mate. Really hard question. I mean, okay, I'll give an example. I've got my orange rack up here, right? Ugh, if you want an example. So that blank was sent to me for free. But you probably can't see it. It doesn't really matter. So there's multiple. MVM sent that to me. Quad quantizer I bought from Tenderfoot. STO I purchased from Make Noise. Wavefonix low pass filter they sent to me. Behringer even VCO they sent to me as a kit, and I built it as a kit. Polyvox VCF was the first filter I bought. Veils Mutable version 2 I bought. Osiris was sent to me for review. I don't think I'm allowed to keep it. Not sure. They haven't asked for it back yet. That's all I'm saying. Pico drums I bought. Black joystick Ericsson sent to me. DivKid mutes I bought. Black Corporation Rachel they've sent to me. I've still no idea what it does, and I need to look into that soon. More fader Behringer sent to me as a... Did I build that one? No, I think they just sent it to me. Don't remember. The Robo 3PT I bought as a kit. The stochastic generator I bought. The expander, the Acid Rain Maestro they sent to me. The Rosie I bought. Is that useful? Does that help? Does that help? You know, I know people are fascinated by these things. Is that? I'm not quite sure. I no longer know which is the right way to be. You know, does it make me sound like I've got loads of money I'm flashing around, or does it make me sound too lucky, or overly privileged? I'm not really sure, but it's a mixture. Oh, excuse me, it's a mixture. Anyway, gonna skip on down. Gonna have to bring this to a close. Yeah, electric motorcycles. I mean, I've been looking at there's one RGM, is it? There's only one electric motorcycle that looks like a motorcycle. Most of them look like some kind of cyberpunk crap. Some weird... It's like, oh, it's electric, is it? Right, okay, well, let's make it look like something really stupid, as opposed to making it look like a motorcycle, because we like the look of motorcycles, what some of us do. Whereas there's this company, I think it's RGM. Oh, I'm going to get that wrong. I think they're Swedish, Norwegian. You know, it'll be one of those countries anyway, where the cool people live. And they've built this electric motorcycle that looks, you know, it looks like a motorcycle. It's got like a tank and stuff, and wheels and handlebars that make it look like a bit of a classic upright motorcycle, rather than something out of Tron. So that's cool. That would be my next bike, assuming that nobody else comes out with something better. I mean, I was hoping Triumph might, but of course Triumph come out with this stupid looking electric grotesque piece of modern art, and you go, oh, great, thanks Triumph, that's awesome. You know, your best motorcycle is still the Bonneville. Why not just take the Bonneville, stick batteries in it, right? That's all you need to do, and we'll all have one. Thanks very much. But anyway, so yeah, it's interesting, and electric motorcycles have really come on in the last couple of years. I did think about it when buying the Enfield, but I didn't quite have the cash. It wasn't quite ready, not quite there yet. How was the beer today? It's all right. I was hoping to have 2, but we kind of run out of time. Do I still have the Moog Sound Studio 3? Yes, I do. See that? I'll turn it over here. Sorry, it's a bit dark. You can't really see. So that's the 2500. Look. Like I say, I can't play it. I haven't wired it in yet. As someone pointed out, I don't even have enough knurlies for it yet. And that's the Sound Studio 3 is sitting there. So I now have a space for them rather than being on the floor. Because that's the table that was over there, if you're with me. The other awesome thing that happened, right, was that my wife said, well, why don't you take the printer and put it in the house? Can I? The printer? That would be awesome. I hate the printer. I hate printers. But she let me put the printer in the house. Fantastic. I got a shot of something. Actually moved something out of the shed. Phew. Fantastic. Anyway. Yeah, okay. So, got to get to bed. Yeah, I know it's getting late. La-di-la-di-la. I want to trade a module for an unplayed copy of Twilight Imperium. No, I have a copy of Twilight Imperium, I'm afraid. I found a second-hand one on Amazon, right, which is half price, and it's perfect. It was missing, apparently it was missing one piece or something. So I probably can't play all 8 players, not that I'm ever going to, but I ended up finding one. So, sorry, no, that's not going to work. So, yeah, see you, Andy. Cheers. I've received 1,000 messages today on Restream Chat, so it says. Okay. So what you want is a Eurorack motorbike. I think Erica Synths are working on an electric bike. That's my understanding. Now, it doesn't matter what that would look like. You know, that would be awesome, regardless. Okay. I think I got to the bottom. So, yeah, thanks everyone for sticking with me and coming along and listen to me run on about stuff. Yeah, I really feel, I don't know what I feel. I feel that, people assume that everyone is as singly, as two-dimensional as they are, you know, that you're only allowed to have one view or one opinion, and that colours everything that you do. And I don't believe that. I have lots of different feelings. I have a very complex relationship with Behringer in particular. No other company creates these sorts of feelings. No other company do we have to think about their equipment in such a way. It's really, really weird. I just ultimately want to put forward the idea. I have nothing against Behringer at all. For some reason, some people think I'm against them or something, or anti them, which is not the case at all. I think they do some great products. I'm fully supporting of all of their work in recreating old synthesizer stuff. I think that's brilliant. I think these small things are interesting. It's going to give access to sound to lots and lots of people, and that's brilliant. I have concerns about at what point does it lose coherence as an instrument, and that's something that I will think about and critique, and if I review one, that's something that I'll talk about. And I don't really know until you have a go, do ya? So, yeah, it's interesting. And I'll continue to express myself on Gear News for as long as they'll let me do that. So there we go. Yeah, I get depressed sometimes, David. It's not all, you know, why is it not all great? Why don't we just feel awesome about it? Why is it that it doesn't make us always all feel awesome all the time? It's interesting. Complex. Yes. So, cool. Right, so I'll stop talking and I'll just play with this a bit. And thanks very much, and go and make some tunes and stuff. Do I have anything coming up that I really need to tell you about? Oh, Erica Synths, the case power supply. I don't think they're quite shipping it yet, so I'm just waiting until it's a bit more in circulation. Once it's out there and people have them, then I'll jump on it. So probably not this week, probably next week for the Erica Synth power supply and case thing. I don't know how Latvia is being affected by what's going on in the middle of Europe at the moment. So that might also be a factor. Who knows? But I wish everyone in the Ukraine the best of everything. Just good luck, and we're thinking of you, and we're helping. And if you're wondering what to do, then just send money to the Red Cross. That's the easiest, simplest thing to do. Go do that. That would be great, because it's a terrible situation, regardless of your politics, what you think might have happened beforehand, or what you think is happening. There's no doubt that people are being displaced, and people are dying, and people are hungry and cold, and that's horrible. So if you can send money, do so, absolutely. And in the meantime, go make some tunes. Should I turn the mic off? Yeah, you won't hear me farting while I do all this. No, I don't actually know how to do that, so I'll just turn this on, and we'll go from there. So, and then you will hear me talking, which is fine. I don't know what I'm doing now. There was what was it I have? Oh, I turned the thing off. There we go. Run. Well, there's a thing. Thanks for staying around. That'll do, I think. I think that'll probably do. That'll do me. Yeah. It got going a bit there, a little bit, for a little while. Started from something quite basic and then went... yeah, interesting when I brought the wavetable thing in. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. Well, I'm glad I got something interesting out of it. And it wasn't just like... You know, you can do the same thing probably with the mini Model D Soul. Yes, you can, I imagine. For $99, $99. Or you can do exactly the same thing with this, which is considerably more. So there you go. Thank you, everyone. I will bid you good night. I'll go and turn the machine off over here. Thanks.